The Devil's Bride of Hollow Creek. This event is said to have happened in October 1998, deep in the forests of Montana, USA, in a place known as Hollow Creek. The area is breathtaking in autumn, tall pine trees standing like green pillars, a crystal-clear stream winding through moss-covered rocks, and, hidden far from any road, a forgotten Victorian-style house with broken windows and ivy crawling up its wooden walls. Locals whisper about a woman named Abigail Crowhurst, a 19th-century witch who sold her soul to the devil in exchange for eternal beauty and power. They say she still roams the land, feeding on young women to keep her youth. 4 best friends, Jessica Miller, Hannah Brooks, Megan Carter, and Olivia Price, all 22 years old, decided to spend a weekend camping. Before Halloween, Hannah had read an online urban legend about Hollow Creek and found it thrilling. The plan was simple: hike in, spend 2 nights by the creek, take photos, and head back before Monday. When they arrived, the forest was eerily silent. No birds, no wind, just a strange stillness. After hours of hiking, they found the Victorian house. It looked abandoned, yet there were fresh footprints in the mud leading inside. Jessica joked that it would make the perfect, haunted, photoshoot location, and they decided to stay there for the night. The first night, around midnight, Olivia woke to the sound of whispering. Looking out the broken window, she saw a tall, pale woman in a black dress standing in the stream, her long hair floating around her head as if underwater. The woman was holding a raven in her hand, muttering words in an ancient language. Suddenly, she snapped the bird's neck, and the water around her turned black. Olivia gasped, and in that instant, the woman's head twisted unnaturally toward her, eyes glowing blood red. Before Olivia could scream, her body rose into the air as though invisible hands were gripping her. She was slammed to the floor, so hard the wood cracked. The witch knelt beside her, inhaled a smoky black mist from her mouth, and then bit into her neck. Jessica, Hannah, and Megan were frozen, tears running down their faces as the witch devoured her. By morning, the 3 remaining friends were shaking with fear but couldn't find the trail back. The forest seemed different, paths twisted into places they hadn't walked before. The second night, Megan tried to protect them. She remembered reading that salt could repel dark spirits, so they made a circle around their sleeping bags. At 1:14 a.m., the witch appeared again, this time inside the circle, as if the salt didn't exist. With her came 2 shadowy, faceless figures with long claw-like fingers. Megan screamed at the others to run, but the witch pointed at her. Megan's body contorted violently, her bones snapping one by one until her spine broke. Her soul, too, was pulled from her body in a swirl of black smoke. Hannah vomited in terror while Jessica sobbed uncontrollably. The third night, only Jessica and Hannah were left. They searched the house in daylight and found a locked wooden chest in the attic. Breaking it open, they discovered a book of black magic rituals, along with human teeth, a jar of preserved animal eyes, and a dagger engraved with strange symbols. The book detailed a ritual to banish a bride of the devil, but it required a blood sacrifice from the caster. That night, the witch came for Hannah. Jessica tried reading the ritual, but the witch's voice cut through her words like a blade. Hannah was lifted off the ground, screaming as her body twisted violently. In seconds, she was dead. Jessica's screams turned to rage. In a final act of defiance, Jessica sliced her palm, letting her blood drip onto the dagger and chanting the ritual. The witch staggered, her form flickering like a flame in the wind. The air filled with a deafening shriek as the 2 shadow figures dissolved. Still, Abigail lunged at her. Jessica stabbed the dagger into the witch's chest. Abigail's body erupted into black fire, burning away until nothing remained but ash. When the sun rose, Jessica was the only one left. She stumbled out of the forest and eventually flagged down a passing truck. Weeks later, police searched Hollow Creek but found no Victorian house. Only the stream and the forest. The black magic book and dagger were never found. Jessica still says, in a trembling voice, "Greater than, she wasn't just a witch. She was the devil's bride, and she almost took me with her." The Black Witch of Ravens Peak. This incident took place in October 2009, in the mountainous region of Ravens Peak, Washington, USA. The mountains there are covered in golden and crimson leaves. During autumn, with a lake below that appears crystal blue by day and like a black mirror at night. Locals have always said the same thing about the place. Greater than, the peaks are beautiful, but they won't let you come back. The story revolves around 4 friends: Emily Parker, Rachel Moore, Samantha, Sam Hill, and Chloe Davis. All 4 were 23-year-old American women who had been friends since their university days, and they shared a love for camping in mysterious places. Rachel discovered an old online forum post about the Ravens Peak cabin. The post included haunting photos, mist-covered waters, a golden forest, and an aged wooden cabin. Strangely, the account that posted it hadn't been active for over 15 years. The 4 decided this would be the perfect Halloween trip. On their way, they stopped at a small gas station where an old woman warned them. "Greater than, the one who lives up there, she serves the devil. If a woman whispers to you at night, do not answer." They laughed it off. That first night seemed calm, until Emily saw a tall woman by the lake shore, in a white dress, long black hair flowing, tossing bird bones into the water while chanting in unknown language. Suddenly, the woman turned toward Emily, her eyes glowing blood red. Before Emily could scream, she was lifted into the air as if by invisible hands and slammed into the ground. Her neck snapped instantly. The witch bent over, pulling a smoke-like black essence from Emily's body and inhaling it. The other 3 girls were frozen in horror. By morning, Chloe and Rachel tried to drive down the mountain, but the narrow road was broken in the middle, as if melted away. Their phones were dead, the GPS wouldn't work, and strange dark clouds were gathering above. The second night, Sam decided to fight back. She drew a salt circle around the cabin and clutched across, reciting Bible verses. At 1:03 a.m., the same woman appeared, but this time, 2 shadowy demonic figures stood behind her, with twisted limbs and distorted faces. Sam shouted scripture, but the witch laughed and whispered a single word. Blood began streaming from Sam's eyes, and she collapsed, screaming. Her bones cracked one by one until her body went limp. Rachel and Chloe could only sob in shock and terror. Now only Rachel and Chloe remained. Chloe, determined not to die without a fight, searched the cabin's basement during the day and found a small iron box containing a black magic book, human nails, and broken candles. Inside was a ritual to banish the servant of the devil, but it required blood. That night, the witch returned, going straight for Chloe. Rachel began the incantation, but the witch held her across the room with unseen force. Her spine snapped on impact, she was dead. Instantly, Chloe, enraged, sliced her own palm, letting blood drip onto the ritual circle, shouting the words from the book. The witch screamed, her body writhing and smoking, yet she kept advancing. In one final desperate move, Chloe grabbed an iron dagger and plunged it into the witch's heart. The witch let out a shriek so loud it felt like it tore through the air, her body erupting in flames, before turning to dust. By morning, Chloe was alone. She staggered through the forest until she reached the roadside, where a truck driver took her to the hospital. When police arrived at the site, there was no cabin, no lake, only an empty mountain slope, as if nothing had ever been there. To this day, Chloe says, greater than, that woman was not human. She hunted for the devil, and I ended her hunt. The Witch of Devil's Hollow. This terrifying incident happened in October 2011, deep in the mountains of Oregon, USA. 4 friends, Sarah Mitchell, Jessica Lane, Amber Collins, and Megan Foster, were all 22-year-old university students who loved adventure photography. Sarah, the leader of the group, found a listing online for a cabin near a place called Devil's Hollow. The pictures showed a stunning location, a crystal-clear river running through a valley of fiery red autumn trees, the mist rolling over jagged black rocks. When they told locals where they were going, they got strange warnings. An old man at a gas station whispered, greater than, that land's cursed. She's still there, and she serves something older than the devil. They laughed, thinking it was just small town superstition, but the truth was far darker. They arrived just before sunset. The cabin looked old but beautiful, surrounded by golden leaves. On the riverbank, they noticed strange markings carved into the rocks, circles filled with unfamiliar symbols, burned into the stone as if by intense heat. Amber took pictures, joking that they had stumbled into a witch's living room. That night, the wind stopped. No insects, no sound. Then came a smell, like rotting meat mixed with burning hair. Sarah heard whispers in a language she didn't recognize, but the others brushed it off as wind. At 1:03 a.m., Jessica woke up screaming. A tall, skeletal woman stood in the corner, her skin ash gray, her eyes burning red. Her long black hair floated in the air as if underwater, and her nails were like black iron spikes. She whispered something, and Jessica's body lifted from the bed. In a single motion, she slammed Jessica into the floor so hard her skull cracked open. Blood pooled. Instantly, the witch bent down, opened her mouth far wider than humanly possible, and fed. The sound of tearing flesh and grinding bone filled the room. The 3 remaining girls froze in shock. Sarah vomited. Amber screamed until her voice broke. Megan grabbed a kitchen knife, but by the time they moved, the witch was gone. Only bloody footprints leading into the woods. The next day, they tried to leave, but the bridge they'd driven over was gone, replaced by a blackened gap as though burned away. Their phones were dead, not out of battery, just dead. That night, Amber tried to protect them with a salt circle and a fire. At exactly 1:03 a.m., the witch came again. But this time, the air shimmered around her. Shadowy shapes twisted and crawled out of the floor, whispering. In unison, Amber slashed at her with the knife, but the witch caught her wrist, muttered a word, and Amber's arm turned black and crumbled like ash before the rest of her body followed. Sarah and Megan cried in terror, trapped inside the circle. The witch circled them like a predator, smiling, then vanished in a swirl of black smoke. On the 3rd night, Megan snapped. She tried to fight back, fashioning a spear from a broken chair leg, coating it with salt and ashes from the fire. When the witch appeared, Megan charged, but the witch whispered something, and Megan's body folded in half backwards, every bone shattering. She was dragged across the floor, leaving a trail of blood. The shadows fed again. Now Sarah was alone. On the final night, Sarah decided to end it. She searched the cabin and found an old leather-bound book hidden under a floorboard. Written in Latin, filled with rituals and names of the Horned One. She realized the witch was bound to serve a demonic master, feeding him through her kills. Sarah drew the same symbols she'd seen on the rocks, but inverted them, whispering the counter-chant she found in the book. She scattered salt, lit every candle she could find, and armed herself with an axe. At 1:03 a.m., the witch appeared, furious this time, her skin blistering from the inverted symbols. She screamed in a voice that wasn't human, the cabin walls shaking. Shadowy hands tried to pull Sarah into the floor, but she swung the axe again and again, cutting through them. The witch lunged, claws slicing Sarah's arm, but Sarah drove the axe into her chest and recited the final words. The witch burst into black fire, her body twisting in agony before exploding into ash. The shadows shrieked and vanished. At dawn, Sarah was found wandering on the highway by a passing truck driver, covered in blood and holding the burnt axe. The cabin was never found, as if it had never existed. When asked what happened, Sarah only said, "Greater than, she served something older than hell, and I sent it back there." The Black Hollow Witch, a true American horror story. This incident took place in October 2014 in a remote forested area of Washington State, USA. 4 friends, Emily Parker, Rachel Summers, Hannah Lewis, and Kate Morgan, were college students with a shared passion for adventure and photography. Emily had discovered an old lakeside cottage online, located by Black Hollow, a secluded, glassy lake surrounded by golden autumn trees. The pictures looked like a slice of paradise. But whenever they mentioned the name to locals, the atmosphere changed. One elderly woman simply said, "Greater than, don't stay there at night, she's still hungry." They laughed it off. Day 1, Beauty hides darkness. They spent the day taking photos by the lake, laughing, and telling stories around a campfire. But after sunset, the forest fell into an unnatural silence. No wind, no birds, no movement. Around midnight, Kate heard footsteps outside. She peeked through the window and froze. A tall woman in a long white gown stood by the tree line. Her face was pale as chalk, her eyes were black pits, and her hair drifted unnaturally as though underwater. Suddenly, she was at the door. Her lips moved as if chanting something ancient. With a deafening crack, the door burst open. She lunged at Rachel, grabbed her by the throat, and slammed her to the floor with inhuman force, her neck snapping. Instantly, the others screamed as the witch dragged the body into the dark. Moments later, wet, crunching sounds echoed outside. Emily and Hannah clung to each other, trembling. Day 2. Nowhere to run. The next morning, they tried to escape, but one side of the lake's bridge had collapsed, and the forest road was blocked by a massive fallen tree. Their phones had no signal. That night, Emily armed herself with a heavy iron rod. But when the woman appeared again, she moved unnaturally fast, one moment at the doorway, the next inside the room. Emily swung the rod, but the witch caught it with one hand and bent it like wax. Then she slammed Emily so hard into the floor that the wood cracked beneath her. Hannah and Kate could only scream in helpless horror. Day 3, the last 2. Only Hannah and Kate remained. Desperate, Hannah tried to protect them by making a circle of salt and preparing fire, recalling something she'd read about banishing spirits. At midnight, the witch came again. The moment Hannah tried to light the fire, it went out, as though something had blown it away. The witch rushed at her, grabbed her arms, and held her against the wall with sickening force. Blood splattered across the room. Kate bolted upstairs to hide, knowing she would be next. The final night. Vengeance. Kate decided she would not run this time. She poured every grain of salt she could find across the doorway, set gas cans near the entrance, and gripped a sharp axe in her hands. At exactly 1 a.m., slow, deliberate footsteps approached. The door creaked open, and the witch stepped inside, but hesitated when she touched the salt. Kate seized the moment, igniting the gas. Flames roared through the room. The witch screamed, advancing even through the fire. Kate swung the axe with all her strength, burying it in the creature's skull. The body convulsed, then dissolved into black smoke and ash. Aftermath. At dawn, a rescue team found Kate unconscious by the lake shore. The other 3 girls were gone, only fragments of bone discovered near the water. Kate spoke only one chilling sentence. Greater than. She took one every night, and on the last night, I took her. According to surviving witness Chloe Bennett, 4 female college students disappeared, 3 confirmed dead, during a camping trip to the Redwood Forest in Oregon. The incident has been officially classified as unexplained fatalities, but local folklore connects it to an old legend. The Redwood Witch. The victims: Emily Carter, 21, Samantha Reed, 22, Olivia Harris, 21, and survivor Chloe Bennett, 22, drove from Portland to the Redwood area on October 29, 2014, intending to spend Halloween weekend in a rented, abandoned-style cabin near Lake Halford. Locals warned the girls not to stay after dark. An elderly woman reportedly told them, greater than, leave before sunset. She still hunts at night. The group laughed it off and continued. Incident timeline, based on survivor statement. Night 1, October 29, 2014, around 1:15 a.m., scraping sounds were heard outside the cabin. Emily approached the window and saw a tall woman in a torn white dress, wet hair covering her face, and hollow black pits where her eyes should have been. Seconds later, the figure smashed the front door, seized Emily by the throat, lifted her into the air, and slammed her into the wooden floor with bone-breaking force. Without a word, the woman dragged Emily outside toward the lake. Chloe recalls hearing wet tearing sounds and seeing ripples in the water turn crimson. Night 2, October 30, 2014. The remaining 3 attempted to flee in daylight, but the only road was blocked by a fresh landslide. Phones had no reception. That night, a dense fog crept up to the cabin windows. Olivia was struck with an iron rod while trying to defend herself. The woman caught it mid-swing and bent it as if it was soft wire. Olivia was lifted, slammed, and taken. Blood was later found near the lake shore. Chloe said, greater than, Samantha was shaking so badly she couldn't even scream. I knew the next night it would be one of us. Maybe both. Night 3, October 31st. 2014. Halloween, barricades were placed at doors and windows. The figure broke in through the side window. Samantha doused her with gasoline and lit a match, but the flames died instantly upon contact with the figure's body. The woman grabbed Samantha, smashed her into the wall, then repeatedly into the floor until she stopped moving. Chloe fled to the attic and hid until sunrise. Night 4, November 1st, 2014. Final confrontation. Chloe spent the day preparing. She created salt circles inside the cabin, placed gasoline drums near doorways, and armed herself with a hatchet. When the figure arrived at exactly 1 a.m., Chloe opened the door and said, greater than, come on in. Tonight, you're not hunting. Chloe threw salt into the figure's face, causing it to scream, the first sound it had ever made. She then ignited the gasoline, engulfing it in flames. Even burning, the witch advanced. In the final seconds, Chloe swung the hatchet into its skull. The body collapsed into smoke and ash. Aftermath. Chloe was found the next morning by search teams, sitting by the lake, clothes soaked in blood and soot, whispering, "Greater than, she came every night and took one of us." No human remains were recovered except for fragments of bone in the lake.